Sometimes I wonder whether romance is just too boring. I recently did a video on whether dating in the 21st century is really that hard. And while I was doing the research, I discovered that some people are just not wanting to find romance. Maybe romance is just so boring compared to the other things that we can do in our lives in the 21st century that it's just not a viable option anymore. I'm going to do some research into that, plug it into AI, and see what AI says. The video about that should be coming out here somewhere about now.
Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're joining us today, chances are you've noticed a major shift in the cultural atmosphere. If you've been feeling like navigating modern romance is increasingly exhausting, complicated, or just flat out unrewarding, I want to start by telling you that you are absolutely not alone. Today, we're going to take a compassionate but deeply analytical look at the underlying science of why this is happening. We're going to map out exactly why the pursuit of connection feels harder now than it literally ever has before.
Okay, let's dive into this. Is romance dead, or is it just boring? It's the fundamental question we have to ask right now, because across the globe, we're seeing a widespread validation of this very specific, quiet frustration. The feeling that dating has somehow transformed from a grand, exciting human adventure into a tedious, completely unstimulating chore.
And that brings us directly to the cultural symptom of our time, dating burnout. Millions of people are actively choosing to decenter romance from their lives. And honestly, the way society frames this is fascinating. Giving up on romance is frequently packaged and celebrated as a powerful act of self-care and personal autonomy. But is that really the whole story? That right there sets up our central psychological mystery for this explainer.
Section 1. The Dating Burnout Epidemic.
To solve this mystery, we first need to completely reframe how we view the issue. This whole phenomenon isn't a massive collective failure of modern love, and it's not a sudden loss of human empathy. Instead, it is a direct, measurable consequence of the attention economy. Think about it. Our modern digital world, with its algorithmic social feeds, the gamification of dating through swipe apps, and hyper-engaging digital entertainment, has systematically trained the human brain to expect immediate, high-arousal feedback loops. So when you step out of that digital ecosystem and attempt a real-world romantic connection, the contrast is completely jarring. The natural pacing of human conversation, the awkward vulnerability required, and that slow burn of building actual trust, to a brain trained on instant gratification, all of that feels agonizingly slow.
Section 2. The Science of Boredom.
Enter our first academic framework, supernormal stimuli. Think of these as wildly exaggerated, artificial stimuli that trigger a much stronger response than the natural stuff our evolutionary mechanisms originally developed to handle. You have to keep in mind, our brains evolved for a slow, physical world, but the digital world, it's a hyper-engineered machine designed to constantly bombard us with these supernormal triggers.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world digital culprits sitting in your pocket right now. Swipe-based dating, constant app notifications, infinite choice architectures. These aren't just harmless little distractions. They're highly engineered, rapid-fire dopamine loops that completely overwhelm your brain's natural reward system, which leads us to a biological process called dopamine downregulation. This is basically the brain's self-defense mechanism. It actively reduces dopamine receptors in response to chronic overstimulation. What this means in practical terms is that your brain literally blocks pleasure from everyday low-arousal activities just to protect itself. So the natural pacing of human vulnerability, like having a quiet conversation over a cup of coffee, now feels painfully dull by comparison simply because your receptors are biologically numbed.
Now, let's see how this builds into our next core concept, hedonic adaptation in choice architecture. This describes our rapid acclimatization to having infinite romantic options. Having endless digital profiles right at our fingertips paradoxically numbs us to real connection. It renders the actual, messy, real-world practice of building a meaningful relationship totally mundane. Because really, why do the hard work on one single connection when the illusion of 1,000 perfect options is just a swipe away?
Section 3. The Junk Food Analogy.
Let's compare digital junk food, which is full of endless novelty, supernormal stimuli, and high arousal, with a whole apple, representing real-world romance and its slow, natural pacing. Think about it like this. In the mid-20th century, the food industry learned exactly how to engineer ultra-processed foods with the perfect ratio of salt, sugar, and fat. They created supernormal stimuli for our palates.
And you know what happens? After you eat a huge bag of highly processed chips, a natural whole apple suddenly tastes bland, boring, and hardly even worth the effort to chew. Well, the digital world has done exactly the same thing to human connection. Real romance hasn't lost its nutritional value. Our psychological palates have simply become too blown out to appreciate it.
Section 4. Peace versus boredom.
So, the crucial point is, what are the societal stakes here? Well, we are increasingly confusing peace with boredom. Think about high-arousal entertainment, the chaotic notification spikes and immediate feedback we've been completely conditioned to crave, versus healthy relationship peace. By its very definition, a healthy, secure romantic relationship is inherently low drama and predictable. The grave danger here is that modern individuals might be mistakenly discarding perfectly healthy, loving, peaceful relationships simply because they don't mimic the chaotic, unpredictable spike of a curated social feed.
And that brings us to the great debate of our current era. Experts are totally torn on the long-term consequences of this. On one side, you have the autonomy evolution argument. This is the idea that stepping away from romance is a legitimate evolution of human independence, allowing people to find real fulfillment elsewhere. But on the other side is the warning of the loneliness epidemic, the severe risk that we are losing fundamental human connection entirely due to a societal inability to tolerate low stimulation. It's a profound divide in how we view the future of human intimacy.
Section 5. Resetting your dopamine baseline. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how empowering this shift in perspective can be. Consider this quote: "Romance, feeling boring, is a diagnostic tool indicating that your baseline dopamine levels are overstimulated by the digital world." What this narrative shift means is that dating burnout is not a personal failure on your part. It is not a sign that human connection is broken forever. It's simply a neurological symptom. And the beautiful thing about recognizing a symptom is that it is entirely solvable.
So what's the solution? It's what we call intentional technological de-escalation. We need to look at exact, physical world steps to heal our attention. Unplug and walk outdoors, engage in real-world community service, have face-to-face conversations, and yes, entirely without a phone present on the table, as terrifying as that might sound to some of us. By deliberately participating in these slow, physical actions, you actively retrain your brain to appreciate low arousal states. You're actively rebuilding your capacity to tolerate what your currently overstimulated brain calls boredom. This is the absolutely necessary first step to rediscovering the profound, slow burn value of real-world human connection and building long-term mental resilience.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to summarize the core tension we've explored today. Are you genuinely craving independence, or is your brain just addicted to the noise? I highly encourage you to evaluate your own digital habits, reflect on the science we've unpacked here, and ask yourself what kind of connection you truly want to build in a distracted world. Thank you so much for focusing your time with me today, and I really hope this empowers your understanding of modern romance.
Researching this question has really made me appreciate the fact that I'm married and I'm not in the dating scene in the 21st century. But it has raised a question for me. How much does the infinite scroll impact on established relationships? Questions like these occur to me when I'm out filming for our main episodes. You can check those out on our channel page. Or you can click through to the next question, which should be floating somewhere around me about now.